And I've watched TC in her messaging on social media platforms. She then wrote this fabulous book that she's going to tell you about, and she asked me to read it. We talked, and it feels like 5 minutes later, here we are doing an internet show. So, TC, tell us how this fabulous book came about.
Well, thank you so much for that, Donna. I'm excited. So I wrote this book, as Donna just shared, 52 Lessons for Christianpreneurs, Faith-Focused Flow. And this book really kind of developed from my need to put together the Bible verses and the lessons that have really guided me through building my business, through my life as a private equity, intellectual property lawyer, things that I have seen come up again and again, lessons that I have observed from successful business owners who I know are Christians, and again, lessons and scriptures that have been important into my life. So I sat down, I wrote the book, I asked Donna and a few other people to read it for me, to give me their initial thoughts. I like to say, because it's true, I'm not a minister or pastor, but I am a Christian business owner. I love the Lord, and I try to build my business based on principles, biblical principles. So from that, we have ended up here with this fantastic blab show where we're really talking about walking through the lessons that the Bible gives us, right? The instructions that the Bible provides for how to build a sustainable business. I like to say that serves the world, right? Serves the kingdom and brings us joy.
Absolutely. And so we're just going to take a couple minutes to introduce the lesson, and then we're going to open up the conversation and the video seats. And we spend 30 minutes, and we want to be mindful of your time. Yeah. So we're on lesson 2, week 2 of the year, lesson 2. And lesson 2 is about working in the proper season. I love the biblical interpretation of that. And as TC says, as business owners, we have a tremendous amount of flexibility, but that comes with tremendous responsibility. And TC and I were talking about this a little bit. Sometimes when I work with companies, I've worked with well over 1,500 companies to help them start and grow. And what I find often happens is that business owners, entrepreneurs, they procrastinate.
Yes.
And that procrastination is typically based on fear. And as we can start to blend our biblical beliefs with our strategic business practices, the fear starts to vanish, frankly, because we've got God on our side. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So we know that business owners procrastinate, but the reality is we have to take action. And last week, TC, we talked about planning. Now you're on a vacation. So tell us about how you get through that fear into that planning.
Well, I love that, Donna. You're right. It's because of fear. And a lot of times we are afraid because we don't know what to do, right? And so when you create a plan, you know what to do and when to do it. And so this particular trip is just a quick trip, and I like to call it a workation because I have planned time. Yes, time out.
What was that phrase?
Workation.
Love
it. I love it. Well, you know what? Welcome. You are a Muslim. Listen, this is what is beautiful about this book. And I'll take a quick point. The lessons that we share in 52 Lessons for Christianpreneurs are applicable regardless of what your faith is. Okay. We have, and what I've written in this book are basic business principles. And what I am so excited about is that all of these principles are rooted in the Word of God. And so I have pulled out Bible verses that tells us exactly what to do. But even if you're not Christian, you can learn from the lessons. You can refer back to the text, right? So you too can read the Bible. You can see how the lessons are backed up by scriptures. But the business lessons work for all business owners. And so that is what I'm most excited about. So as I tell you about my workcation, I I've planned time to play. I've planned time to tour. And I've also created space to work because there are projects that I have to get done. And so just like the analogy in the Bible and in the lesson about the ant knowing what to do and when to do it and doing that, right? And not procrastinating. I'm not procrastinating because I've built in time for everything. There is no fear that I'm going to miss out, right? Because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And there's no rush. I don't feel anxious or rushed because, again, I've laid it out. So now some people take vacations. So here's the other thing. The beauty about having your own business, running a business, is that you can create work in your life around what works for you. Now, I have some friends and they don't like the idea of mixing any work with vacation. And so that's perfectly fine if that's not how you choose to spend your time. I love the work that I'm doing. Is internet based. I can do much of it on my phone, but I don't want to work all the time, nor can I, right? When I'm walking through glaciers and on black sand beaches, right? So I have to have time to do both.
Absolutely. And that really leads us to the other point I'd like to make before we open up the conversation to everyone who is here on the Blab. It's really about sustainability. And what I find, and I know for me, I've been doing this a long time, I would venture to say that in my first 5 to 7 years of owning a business, every time I took a vacation or I took a break, I got sick because I was going so hard that when my body finally had the opportunity to slow down, it said, okay, that's it, Donna, game over. So I think it's really about creating the balance that leads to sustainability. Last week we talked about planning, and, as we go through the book and the 52 lessons, I too am filling out the SMART goals form that you gave us. And so I've been doing this for a while, but I'm doing it much more mindfully now. On Sunday nights, I plan my week. I put everything on my calendar. We talked about that last week as well. So the reality is it's about creating the mix that works for you and what's going to be sustainable. And what I know is true for me is if I don't take breaks, I am far less productive.
Mm-hmm.
People think that's, counter, but the reality is it's about balance. So I think it's amazing. And it's another great example of God's timing that lesson number 2 is work in the proper season. You happen to be in Iceland, and I worked all weekend, which is fine because next weekend I'll be on a beach in Cabo. That's how we live. That's how we create our sustainability. And I think also when we do that, we really model good behavior for other people. Because ultimately, that's what it's about. We're here to serve the kingdom. We're here to spread the word through our work. And if you've read TC's book, 52 Lessons for Christianpreneurs, you will notice one of my favorite things about the book is what I like to refer to as simple genius, in that she capitalizes the word work.
Yes.
And I really believe that in and of itself summarizes exactly how I see my business and my entrepreneurship. So you're in Norway, I'll be in Mexico. And we're talking about working in the proper season. If anybody wants to jump in, tell them how they jump in, TC. Let's open the conversation up.
Right at the bottom, you'll see open seat. If you click open seat, then we'll bring you right into the conversation. And, while we're waiting for someone, Jeff made an interesting point here. He likes to offer the word integration instead of balance. I love both of those words. Integration is a word that I use a lot too. This weekend for me is a good example of it because I have done tremendous work for things that are happening in my business, and I'm having really an amazing time in Iceland. Who knew Iceland would have been such a fantastic place to visit for 3 days?
I like the concept of integration as well. Because, and I doubt I'm alone in this, but I find it very hard to turn my business off. I find it hard to not think like an entrepreneur. So when I'm laying on a beach in Mexico, I could very well be relaxing, as I will be, but I could also very well be writing my next blog or working on a strategic plan. I saw your comment about your flight. What did you do during your flight? That's a great example of integration.
Yes, it was the most productive flight ever. I got like 4 hours, 5 hours of work done. And I was so excited when I landed because I just had, I planned out the Cooper Zone is our social media training portal. And I was so excited about getting all that work done. I'll be working on the plane going back. But it is certainly a part of this work-life integration. And so here's a fun thing, Donna, when you said it's hard to turn it off. That's because I think that when you are doing the work, right, with a capital W, when you're doing the work that you've been called to do, that's what I write about in the book. You can't turn it off because but it's not a bad thing. Right. Because when you're working in the proper season, just like you shared, you're making time to rest. So you have time to rest. You have time to play. And then the ideas that you get are like your moments of genius, and you want to write them down because you can't wait to share whatever it is that you're creating because you know there's someone who needs it. And it's your pleasure to share it. So that is, I think, what the exciting thing is about doing your work, doing the work that you've been called to do.
I agree. And I think I like the concept of integration, especially because over the years, there's this sense of needing to separate. And the reality is I don't think you can. And I often, last week when we were talking about planning, people were asking about tools. And, I mentioned how I use my calendar as a very core planning tool. And people will often say to me, should I put my personal things on there also? Well, of course, you're only one person. So I think integration is what we're shooting for in this process of sustainably growing a business.
Absolutely. And Jeff is going to join us. Let me share one thing as Jeff comes. Now, it's interesting when you talk about having your personal and your business things together. One of the projects that I was working on the plane over here and I'm done is a new daily planner that's built around the book. And it's because I needed a planner that allows me to list out my SMART goals. Now, I journal everything now, and I have a Franklin Covey planner. I'm so excited about unveiling this planner because it allows both to be together. So Jeff is with us. Hi,
welcome, Jeff. Good to
see you. Hey, guys. How are you?
Very good.
I have to say quickly, I love your last name. My father's first name is Harmon.
Oh, cool. Very nice. That's great. Well, I'm so glad to have had Donna invite me to be a part of the conversation. And I just took a few minutes this afternoon to read the chapter. Donna was kind enough to send me a copy of the book last week. So super excited to be here and maybe talk a little bit more about that word integration and what it means to me.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So for me, I'm in a season of really tapping into the heart of the Father and asking him, what do I have to do tomorrow? What do you want me to do tomorrow? I have a business plan. I have a to-do list. I have things I want to accomplish, goals for the year. And in the midst of that, it's saying on tonight or tomorrow morning, what do I need to do today? What do you want me to do today? Who do you want me to talk to? Just yesterday had an experience where someone elaborated on the Bible verse. I think it's in Luke where Jesus said to his parents, I must be about my Father's business. So I've been thinking about what's my must. And so to me, integration is, I agree with you. There's a flow in my life, in my work. And so in 2016, I'm in a season of tapping on the Father's heart more and saying, this is my plan, but if it's not yours, or if you have something else in mind, let's do it.
When TC and I were just spending a couple of minutes kind of laying out what we were going to talk about, one of the things that TC talked about, which I think is in line with what you're talking about, Jeff, is being present. And I think that the only way we can hear what the Father is trying to tell us is if we are quiet and we are present.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
If we are quiet and present, and that's what's hard. I'll just stop. That is what's hard for people to do. That's a part of the reason in this book there is a space for prayer. The idea is for people to be still, right? To be present and be intentional about asking what it is that God, what is the must? I wrote that down. I think that's brilliant. Asking, what must I do? And then when you hear it, right, asking God for guidance to help you do it. And then write it down, sign your name so that it's not something you just do, right? It is planned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
And the other thing that was amazing about the way the book is formatted is I've been journaling for years. For years now, I get up at 5 a.m. and I spend the first hour of my day in quiet prayer and meditation. I read the word, I journal. And for probably 10 years now, my journal starts out, good morning, God. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. Then I talk about what I'm going to talk about. And I always sign it, your loving daughter, Donna. So to me, I always think it's a letter and it's a commitment. And I love the way you have the book written where you sign your daily prayer.
I love that. I mean, a part of that is, so I am growing in my journaling. And so that idea of signing and dating, this is like the lawyer in me coming.
There you go.
It's like, sign the contract. But it was for me. So, you write for yourself sometimes. You write for other people, but also for yourself. And this is a lot about me. For me to be intentional, really that. It's like more intentional. And when I sign my name to something that I prayed about, because I've thought about it and I've meditated and I've asked for direction. And so then I'm asking for help to follow through with what God has told me to do. And then, Jeff, I think you just said it, it's a matter of just doing it. So I had an update to my Facebook page today, and it said, if you want to do it, then do it, right? Seriously, just do it. And so part of it is, once you've asked God what to do, you've prayed about it, and you know what God has said for you to do, don't procrastinate, right? It goes back to the lesson. Do it.
Yeah, I've been spending some time in Isaiah, and it's really fascinating. You look at Isaiah 30 and that whole chapter. I mean, God has given them the business basically for what they did, and I think it's in Isaiah 30 chapter 30 verse 1 where he says, "Yeah, you had plans, but they weren't my plans. You had alliances, but they weren't alliances of my spirit." And then later on, I think it's in the 15th verse, it says, "In stillness and in quietness is my salvation." And so, again, these are words that have been coming up for me as I have started the year, and then integration. It's not about me as a leader in my church. It's yes, it is about that, but it's also about me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and how I show up every day. And goodness gracious, I don't ever want God to say, "Yeah, your plans were good, but they weren't my plans, and your partnerships were pretty good, but they weren't my partnerships." I don't want to get the business like the Israelites did from Isaiah. So it's just something I've been sitting with.
Yes, I will just say this quickly. Here is something that I wrote about a lot because I've been thinking about it and praying about it and growing in this, and that is praying that my will is aligned with God's will for my life, right? And so other lessons, other scriptures, and people like to say, all things work for the good of those who love the Lord, right? And all of these things that say everything will work out, right? If you just keep the faith and you move forward. Well, it works out when your will is aligned with God's will. And so that takes prayer and meditation and quietness and stillness, and I think more prayer to say, God, make my will, my plans, my desires aligned with your will.
Mm, mm, absolutely.
I totally agree with that. And I think that it comes back to a lot of the teaching I do through my company and the Earn More program and what we're talking about here. You can never move away from the basics. The basics are always applicable in your business. And wanting to be aligned with God's will, I think, is something you have to visit every day. It's a living, breathing desire that will never not be a living, breathing necessity. So I just think it's so great, whether it's, spending a half hour blabbing about how do I be an effective Christianpreneur, which is exactly what we're talking about. So I just love coming back to the basics and revisiting them and making sure that that's always at the center of what I'm doing. Because, we all know the world, look at the Powerball. I have been blown away by the amount of money that people are spending to win a lottery. We've already won. So I feel blessed that I am where I am, and I'm always grateful to just come back to the basics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as usual, we're almost out of time. It always amazes me how quickly this goes. And the thing that I wanted to talk about, which is also in this week's lesson, and we touched on it a little bit, but I really would like to talk about it with the two of you and everyone that's on the blab. What happens when you go off course? What are the ways, what are the tools that we can use if we overwork and become burnt out, if we are procrastinating? How can we, as Christianpreneurs, get ourselves back on track?
I think one good way, and we've been talking about this, is to settle down. Now, I actually have to do this a lot. I am hyper. I have a lot going on, right? I plan, I pray, but I can overdo it. And so sometimes I find myself in a place where I have to slow down, stop, really, and take stock of what's important. Right? What was my vision? And this is the whole thing for the SMART goals. What was my vision? What did I intend to accomplish? Is what I'm doing necessary to get me to that goal, or is it extra? What else has to cut out, right? What is the extra things that I'm doing? Someone just wrote here, and it's true, have an accountability partner. I have a mastermind group, and they have full permission to call me out. They know my goals. They know because I shared it with them. And when they see me off track, it's like, what are you doing, T? That's been so important.
Yeah, for me, I go with what you're saying, TC. In your book, you don't use the word coach, but you talk about mentor, mastermind group. I'm a coach, and I have a coach. Mm-hmm. It's just that I actually have multiple people in my life that I've surrounded myself with that are coach-like or actual coaches. And for me, it's getting it out of my head. So when I'm in my head, and my coach even knows this, when I'm silent, he goes, Jeff, talk it out. Talk about what you're thinking about. So when I can get out of my head and just talk through, again, what you've just said, TC, talk through what's my mission this year? What's my mission and vision this year? and sometimes they have to say nothing at all, but just for me to reflect back again outside of my own consciousness and internal blab in my head. So it's amazing. It's amazing. I was on a plane to Dallas last Monday, and I was just all in my head, and I was feeling stuck and lost. And as soon as I got into dialogue, got off that plane and texted two of my colleagues who serve as coaches for me, it was almost instantaneous. I was out of it.
Awesome. And I think that's so true. Very often when we have something inside of our head, and that self-talk starts to almost move the conversation beyond a point it's meant to be. So I think there is definitely a piece that we need to share with other people to have accountability partners. We are winding up. So I think we lost TC, and that's okay. She, as most of you know, is in Iceland. And the other thing I wanted to say about the book, if you don't have it, you can get it on TC's website, which is Christianpreneur.net. Great book. You can always email me, Donna at c3workplace.com, and I will make sure you get a copy. I know that Tasha would also be, or TC, who goes by TC and Tasha, will be happy to sign a copy for you, and we can make that happen. But the way the book is set up is each week set SMART goals for yourself. So I would encourage each of you to check out the book, create your SMART goals for the week, which helps you stay on task, helps you to work in season. Another tool that TC gives us through the book is every week she has affirmations. And I know for me, Jeff, sometimes when I get in that negative self-talk place, my form of prayer is actually affirmation. So I think it's another tool that we can use. So we are pretty much out of time. Jeff, I'm so glad that you were able to join us for the conversation and help us round it out. We will be here each Sunday at 7 p.m. Again, if you'd like a copy of the book, just reach out and we'll make sure we get you one. It's also available on Amazon. And as I said at the beginning, my company, C3 Workplace, we help companies to start and grow by providing back office support, bookkeeping. We have office space. We have educational events. You can learn all about my company and what I do at c3workplace.com. Jeff, you've been such a great part of the conversation. Why don't you tell the people how they can get in touch with you? If you would like to. Hi, TC. We were just wrapping up.
Okay, great.
So hang there 1 second. Jeff, tell people how they can get a hold of you and tell them about your coaching service.
Thanks, Donna, and thank you, TC. It's really awesome to be together. Probably the easiest way is to use my Twitter handle that's here on the blab, at Jeff, D as in David, Harmon 74. Shoot me a tweet and let's talk. If you need an accountability partner, if you're working on your vision and mission, your why for the year, happy to help you with that. I work with people who don't need coaches, who are doing amazing things in the world. I also work with leaders who are leading with disabilities. I live with a disability myself and want to support others who are doing amazing things with disabilities. So again, thanks a million for the opportunity just to hop on the line. I really appreciate you guys.
Glad you were here, Jeff. So TC, I gave a little bit of information, but you probably have more specifics. So how does our audience reach you, get the book, learn more about your social media marketing tool?
Fantastic. Well, if you haven't gotten the book yet, you can order it directly from me and get a signed copy if you go to upwardaction.com/books. Now, we're also available on Amazon, so you can always go to Amazon if you go to Christianpreneurs with an S.net. So that's how you get the book. We do social media training programs. A new program that I'm super, super excited about is a training portal. And if you go to the Cooper Zone, THE CooperZone.com, you'll learn all about it. You'll learn all about on-demand videos that will teach you how to leverage the power of social marketing in your business. So
Excellent.
That's it.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will hope to see you next Sunday, same time. I will be calling you from Mexico.
Exciting.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.